Good morning. Well, we're back out in the shop again. Welcome to another video on the Luderco Arms channel. And so we've got the Doge in here. And we're going to put some shocks on it. So I just got this truck a little while ago. It's an 06 model. And I'm pretty sure the shocks that are on it are the factory original ones, because when you're going down the road, this thing, it bounces and floats. The ride quality is terrible. That may just be a quality of Dodge trucks. I don't know. This is the first one I've ever owned. But considering that shocks only last about 30,000 miles anyways, can't hurt to throw a set under it, because the ones that are on it have definitely been on there for a while. So we're going to start with the front, and I will do this one side and show you, and then we'll move to the back and I'll show you one of those. So what I've got my jack under here on the frame there, and I don't have this wheel off the ground. All I've done is jack the truck up just to give me some room in here so I can get in there to work. So our top bolt is here, and you can see I've already sprayed it down with Kroil because it's all rusty, and there's not enough room to get an impact gun in there on that. So chances are it's going to spin the shaft, and we're going to have to put a wrench on the nut and on the top to hold it. But these front shocks go up inside the coil. So you got your stud on the top, and on that stud you'll have these rubber bushings and stuff. When we go to put it on, I'll show you how all that goes on. And then the bottom has two bolts up through the bottom of the bottom A-arm. Pretty easy. The biggest thing is when all this stuff gets rusted, it's a pain in the ass. So let's see if we get lucky and this bolt comes loose without having to fight it. Now, if your shocks have been replaced before, there's no telling what size this will be. For instance, on this Dodge right now, this is an 18 millimeter nut, and it's 9 millimeter on the stud, and the two bottom bolts are 1/2 inch, so go figure. But yeah, this is an 18 millimeter ratcheting wrench right here. Let me set you down for just a second and get this thing on here. I don't want to tighten it. Alright. So I've got my wrench on there, and this is a flex head ratcheting wrench. Let's see if it'll... Now, see how it's turning the whole thing? So now we've got to get our 9 and stick it on there, and hopefully we'll be able to break this thing loose. There we go. And if you don't have a ratchet wrench, you can always use a regular wrench. It'll just take you longer. But we're just spinning that up off of there. So I believe I can spin that off with my fingers now. Yep. Alright, so once you get that off, pull your little rubber donut and your big washer off too. And that's got the top side loose. Now we'll move around to the bottom. So throw this in the proper bin. The bottom should be easier to get to. Need our light. Alright, let me see if I can get this set up where you'll be able to see what I'm doing. I don't know. Yeah, it's too high. Hold on just a second. Okay. So now, let's get this back up in here. So you can see right here, that's the bottom end of the shock, and those are the two bolts that we got to take out. So we got a 1/2-inch socket on our impact, and there's one. Now these two bottom bolts you're going to reuse, so you don't want to mess them up. There we go. All right. And the shock will drop out the bottom just like that. So now we got our shock out, and we'll drag it on out here. Oh. Let me grab my tripod here. Alright, I'm going to get this back on the tripod and get this other shock ready to go back in. So I'll be right back. Okay, so got our new shock sitting here, and it comes with this bag of parts, and there'll be 2 of these washers and 2 of these rubber bushings and a nut. So what you want to do before you go under there is stick a washer and a rubber bushing on there, like so. And so what I'll explain to you right now before we go under there what I'm going to be doing, because I suspect that at certain points my head is going to be in the way of the camera. So we got to shove this back up in that hole in the bottom of that bottom A-arm, and at the same time get this stud into its hole where it's supposed to go, and then get it up in there and get those 2 bolts started in the bottom to hold it up in there. So if I block the camera while I'm doing that, I apologize, but that is in essence what I am doing under there. So let's go under the truck I had to take this off of the tripod again. I got a couple of blocks under here to set it on, so hopefully you'll be able to see what we're doing. But the other thing you could do is pull that wheel off, but you don't have to. And if it wasn't for me trying to film this, it would be pretty easy to do. So right here is our hole that the shock's got to go back up into. And let me get this moved around here. I think you'll still be able to see. Yeah, so right here is the hole I got to go up in. And then once you get that up in there, and I'm hoping that, yeah, that's what I was afraid of. I got to jack it up more because that is not, there's not enough room with that cover on there. So let me get this thing jacked up a little bit more and I'll be right back. Okay, so now I got the tire sitting on a wood block, and that gave me just enough room to angle this up into its hole. The other one didn't have this boot on it, so it wasn't so bad. And you get that in there, and you gotta look and make sure you get it in the hole at the top, which we did. And then you can start your bolts in down here. And now I'm going to leave those loose for now and get that top end on because we got to get it lined up. So let's slide back out of here and we'll take our light with us. But you can see I've got those bolts loose. They're just holding that shock up in there. So now we can go back around here and see that our stud is sticking up through the hole here. And what you got to do is get that centered with your rubber grommet and washer and everything. So let me grab those parts real quick. So we're going to put the light where we can see. Like that. And you can see this rubber grommet's got a ring on it. That is to kind of center it in that right there, like that. And then you got a washer. So right now what I'm going to do, now that I've got that kind of centered, is go back underneath here and run these on up a little bit. Now I put, while I had the camera off, I put a little bit of blue Loctite on both of those bolts. Not the red, We don't want them permanently affixed. We just want them on there. So now we can get this nut started up here. And like I said, you gotta get that thing centered in there, like so. And let me go grab a wrench and I'll be right back. So this new shock is a 3/4 or a 1/2 inch bolt or nut. And of course, all right, so now I got to go get a wrench to hold the new shock in there, which I should have done, but I didn't think about it, so I'll be right back. Okay, so this new shock, these are Monroe-Matic Plus, by the way. They're just standard shock absorbers. It does not have a hex on the top of it. It's just got 2 flats, and a 5/16 wrench fits on it. So, get it spun around. Oh, now the phone rings. Be right back. Now that we've answered the phone for business purposes, so what you want to tighten this down. And what you'll see here is that you got these rubber grommets on the top and the bottom of that mount. And basically, you don't want to like totally deform those. I'm not sure if the book has a torque value for these. I didn't look any of them up because it's just shocks. But basically, what you want to do is you want to smash this a little bit, just barely. You don't want to deform the crap out of it. And the simple fact of the matter is, the reason that this is like it is, where you can only use a 5/16 wrench on it, is to keep you from over tightening this thing. And there we go. So that shock is in. So now we can jack it back up, pull the block out from under it, let the jack down. I'll do the other side real quick. And I'm not going to film it because the other side is the same as this side, just on the other side of the truck. So I'll do that real quick, and then I'll bring you back when we go to do the back axle and show you how those go on. So we'll be back for that. All right. So on these back ones, this is the passenger side, and the top bolt is right up in this hole, and you can reach it from the passenger side with a deep well and a short extension, like so. It's not particularly easy to get to. Under here, there's the nut. Now it's a flag nut, and I'm not sure if it's one that's attached or not, but I had to hold it with a wrench to work on it because it was trying to spin. Let me see if I can get you where you can see this. Dang it. No. There we go. So I've already loosened this because I was trying to see what wrenches I need, which by the way is 21 millimeter. Alright. So let me show you. This is what I mean by a flag nut. It's got that piece of metal on it. They call that a flag, and they use those when they assemble the car. That'll spin around and catch, and let them run that bolt in from the outside without having to hold it underneath. Doesn't work so good for you, but there it is. So we got the top bolt. I got to spin it on out of there. Alright, so we're gonna have to spin the top bolt on out of there. Y'all bear with me for just a second. There we go. Alright, so now we got our bolt out of the top. We'll move on to the bottom. Obviously, your bottom one is a whole lot easier to get to. Take this little extension off because we don't need it. There we go. And of course, there we go. All right, let me go grab the new one and I'll be right back. Okay, so I got my new shock here. Got one of the bolts. I always like to make sure that my bolts fit. You don't want to be trying to fight that while you're under the vehicle. So the bolt fits. Now, do not take this strap off of here until it's the right time. So we'll stick that under the car. Let me get slid up in here and get everything set up. So the first thing you want to do is take your bolt and your shock, and I like to just, that's the mount bracket right there, and the bolt goes in from the outside like that. So what I'm going to do is put my shock, put the top end of my shock up in that bracket and put the bolt in it like this. Alright, where'd the dang hole go? There it is. Okay, So now you can see I've got my shock bolts in there, and the flag nut is started on the bolt, but it's not tight. See, it's loose. So this now is the critical part. So what you're going to want to do, you're going to want to have about 4 hands. You want to make sure this is lined up, right? Because when you cut this packing strap off, this shock's going to extend. These are gas charged. And what you want to try to do is be ready with this bolt, so when this extends down, you can slam that bolt in. Now if you miss it, it's not the end of the world, but it's just a whole lot easier to catch it when it comes down. But so we'll pull that off, and then we'll get our bolt ready here, and there we go. All right, well, see, I got it through one side. There we go. That's going in now. We'll run it up in there. All right. So if you miss that when you let it down, it's not the end of the world. You can push this back up. It's just difficult, and on some shocks you just about got to put a jack under it, or you can use a pry bar in here to line it up, get it back in there. So now we got both our bolts back in, so all we got left to do is tighten them. So I'm not gonna bother leaving this on while I tighten bolts, because I'm pretty sure you know how to tighten a bolt, and I'm going to do it the same way I got them off, which is with this impact wrench. So this, you can cut it off once you get that bottom end in. Just cut the loop at the top with a pair of cutters right up there and pull it off of there. I don't have my cutters under here right this second, so I'll get that in a minute. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten these bolts up, and then cut this strap off, and I'll bring you back to do the driver's side, because it's a little bit different. The bolts are the same, but location and how you get to them is a little bit different. So I'll be right back. All right, so we have done the passenger side, and now we're going to do the driver's side. Now the driver's side is the opposite of the passenger side. The passenger side shock is canted to the front. The driver's side is canted to the rear. And you can see the shock right there. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my little 10mm ratchet and pull these 3 screws out. I'm sorry, I said 10. This is an 8mm, not a 10. So there's 3 little screws. 2 right there. And then 1 up here in the top. And that will allow you to remove this piece of plastic out of your way. And now we can get to the bolt, which is right there. So we'll stick our impact on it, like so. And then, now I should point out that I have put some Kroil oil on these bolts to make them spin easier. And if you live up in the Rust Belt, man, I don't know. I certainly would not want to deal with this up there, but get everything here where we can have a possibility of seeing. There we go. All right, so we've got our impact wrench right here on our outside on the bolt, and then again we've got this flag nut here, and you want to hold that with a wrench and spin the bolt. It's kind of counterintuitive because normally you would want to spin the nut off of the bolt, but if you try to spin that nut off, you'll just ruin the flag part of it. I'm not entirely certain that that would be the end of the world, but let's see if I can get this. Yeah, there we go. So we'll put our wrench on there like so, and we'll get our light to smack us in the face. Try this again. Uh-oh. We should probably try loosening it rather than tightening it. Let's try that. Go. And once again, this thing's got this flag nut on it. Makes them, but see, this is in, if you try to spin that nut, it's kind of tack welded to that, so it doesn't really work that way. You got to spin the bolt on that top one. And we'll have to reach up here and spin the bolt out of it. There we go. All right. So we got the top out. And now we'll move to the bottom bolt. There we go. Now let me go get the new one again and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've got my new shock here. And this is going to be just like when we did the other side. We're going to stick that up in its place there and put our bolt through it. going to hold this up here and get my bolt started in my nut. Like so. So we got the top bolt started. And now, just like before, we get to play Are You Quick Enough to get your bolt back in. So we will push this up. Oh, this one's got a little more juice to it. All right, and I missed that one. I'd like to tell you I did it on purpose so I could show you what to do if you missed, but I digress. So on some of these shocks, depending on how hard the gas charging is, you can grab them and push them up in a little bit, but it comes right back out, so you got to give yourself a little there. Oh, there we go. There we go. Just like that. All right. So now we can do a little bit of that, and God damn it. Oh, be right back. Phone's going off again. Sorry about that. Phone's been non-stop today. All right, we got our bottom bolt back on. So now we just got to take care of the top. Put our light back up here again. Thing just does not want to stay. So we got our bolt here. Get this strap cut out of the way. There we go. Don't need that anymore. And again, because these nuts have that flag on them, you want to run the impact on the bolt part instead of the nut, and just hold the nut with a wrench so it doesn't get all jammed up. And that is it. Let's get our tools out from under here. And our Croil oil and the light and ourselves. All right. Yeah, that'll do it for this video. Oh, and don't forget to hit your head on the trailer hitch. I mean, are you really working on your truck if you don't hit your head on the trailer hitch at least once if you're under the back of the truck? So now we have some new shocks on. Oh yeah, definite improvement. probably going to ride 1,000 times better now. Oh, look at that. All right. Don't forget to put your little piece of plastic back on. I got excited and got a little too excited that I was done. So we'll take our plastic piece and get it back in its place here and start the 3 little screws back in it. And you'll probably have to wiggle it around a little bit, get everything to line up. There. All right. Now, if you use a power tool to do those, just be aware of what you're doing. It's just plastic and little sheet metal clips. This is a 1/4 inch drive electric ratchet. I've had it for a while now, and it doesn't have much behind it, but it's good for running all the trim screws in and out on stuff. So now all we got to do is put our tools up and we'll be done for the day. And that is putting shocks on the 06 Dodge. So hopefully this video might have helped somebody out, showed you how to do it yourself, save you a little money, or at the very least entertained you. And we appreciate y'all watching and supporting the channel. We'll see you in the next video. Y'all have a good one.